Thank you, Liliana. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. We are very excited to have you here, a virtual event for our Prepare for the Fair workshop. And my name is Maria Ibarra. I am the small business manager here at the district, Caltrans District 11. The intent really of today's workshop is to prepare you, the vendor, the subcontractor that is interested in submitting quotes or submitting bids to our district purchasers and contractors while attending our annual Procurement and Resource Fair. So providing you the tools and the resources you need to fulfill really initial requirements so you can get going with state government contracting. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the next slide, please. Okay, so if you have not done so, here's the opportunity for you to click on the QR code. We'd like to encourage you to register for our Procurement and Resource Fair. We have a link and we have the flyer also available electronically. We'll provide that to you after the event. And it's also provided here on the screen. So please register. It'll be this month, Wednesday, August 30th. And in today's workshop, so next slide, please. We are going to first provide you with an overview of the upcoming Procurement and Resource Fair. Then I will introduce you to our guest speakers from APEX, formerly known as PTAC, our Small Business Development Center, SBDC, the Department of General Services, or DGS. We also have our very own Caltrans Office of Civil Rights and our District 11's Administration Resources Unit, so our resources partners in our resource management. Michaela Howard, she's our District 11 Small Business Liaison, will also provide the closing remarks. And so let's go ahead and next slide, please. Let's jump right in and go over some important details to know about the procurement fair. Okay, first off, we are excited to once again hold this year's Procurement and Resource Fair in partnership with our San Diego Public Agency Consortium here at the district courtyard. So it's our beautiful campus here. Our District 11 is conveniently located next to the Old Town Transit Center. So we do encourage you to use public transportation. Although we do have parking also available on site, shown on the yellow highlight there on the district map, as you can see on the slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so once again, the campus, you will be able to connect with, once you're inside the campus, you will be able to connect with our exhibitors. So this year we had a lot more agency partners that actually have committed to exhibit. This includes folks from our public agency consortium members. We also have our Caltrans District 11 purchasers from the divisions of administration, maintenance, corridors, engineering, design, environmental, traffic, construction, planning, and local assistance, and right-of-way and land surveys. So in addition to our district purchasers, the fair will feature exhibitors from our Clean California and Adopt a Highway programs. So if you stop by their booth, the Clean California and Adopt a Highway, they will highlight the programs that aims to keep our roadways clean. They will invite you, the businesses, civic groups, and individuals to adopt stretches of roadway, on and off ramps, park and ride for litter cleanup. So just really good program for us here in California overall. You will also have a chance to meet members of our public agency consortium, as I mentioned, and learn about their upcoming opportunities. So what's upcoming as far as project goes. The fair will also feature the chairs of the construction and professional services committees who will exhibit on behalf of the Caltrans District 11 Local Small Business Council. So a little bit about the Small Business Council. The council was established to promote the effective implementation of federal and state requirements and assist with issues relating to participation in Caltrans contracts. So the council is comprised of individuals from business trade associations, Caltrans, construction industry representatives, public agency partners, and other businesses on an as-needed basis. So we do encourage you to stop by their booth to learn about the council and how you can get involved. So as you can see on this list here, we have quite a bit of exhibitors. So really just a good event for you to come out, see us in person. We will provide a great networking opportunity for you, small businesses, the community, and we really hope to see you guys there. Next slide, please. Okay, so now that you know a little bit about our fair and what to expect, I'd like to bring out Mike Sabelico with Apex Accelerator to talk to you more about the services they provide and give you some best tips on getting into government contracting, whether this is your first attempt or you're an expert and just have one question. We would like to, reach out to Mike, and we want to welcome Mike.
Thank you, Maria. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, and I cannot see the Q&A, so if there's a Q&A for me, please let me know.
Will do.
Hi, my name is Mike Sabelico. I'm the Regional Director for the San Diego, Orange, and Imperial Apex Accelerator. We were formerly known as the PTAC. Our new funder, which is the Office of Small Business Programs for the Department of Defense, changed our name from PTAC to Apex Accelerator, and it's because they've seen a 40% reduction in the defense industrial base, and they thought that Apex resonated better with millennial type businesses, which is whom we are trying to entice into doing business with the federal government. So that's why we're the Apex. The Apex doesn't stand for anything except for the pointy end of the spear. So thank you, and you can go to the next slide. Okay, I already told you about this. We're trying to help more businesses join the DIB, which is the Defense Industrial Base, and the GIB, the Government Industrial Base. It's not easy to do business with the federal government or the state government, which is why we're trying to make sure that we can provide that link so businesses understand how to do that. Okay, next slide. What is our mission? Well, we're a regional Apex, so we have San Diego, Orange, and Imperial counties, and we're talking about how to do business with state, federal, local, municipal. In California, you got CPUC, the California Public Utilities Commission, CUCP, all kinds of different agencies, cities. All this help is provided to small businesses, and we also help large businesses who are looking to work with small businesses at no cost to you. I hesitate to say free because sometimes people associate free with not so good, but this is actually really, really good training. So we have exceptional counselors and advisors, and it's a tremendous value for you. When I started my own small business back in 2010, if I had sought the assistance of the Apex or the SBDCs, you're going to hear from Cheryl down the road here, or DGS, Wayne, or the Caltrans exceptional small business advocates, I would have avoided a lot of mistakes. So you guys are taking the first step, making sure you're getting the right information for your small businesses here today. Next slide, please. So what do? We do a lot of training webinars and events, about almost 3,000 participants annually. We will help you with your market research. Again, I want to say help because we don't do it. We want you to learn how to do it yourself so that when we are not available, you can do your own market research. Learn how to write your own capability statement, learn how to search for opportunities. But the meat and potatoes of what we do is the one-on-one counseling. This is where you'll have an hour to an hour and a half of an advisor's time, and you set the agenda. You tell us what you're looking for help with, and we will help you with it. So it's a really valuable resource for you. And I will say that we're available both via Zoom, and if you want to come down to National City, we're in National City. We also have a location up in Orange County, which we're working on, and also one in Imperial County. So let us know if you want to see us in person, and we'll try to make that available. Next slide. Obviously, what we do wouldn't happen without our funders from DOD and the California Office of Small Business Advocate, but we also have local sponsors, and you can see that we've got a large prime contractor in General Atomics. We've got a couple of large construction contractors in Harper and Sunt, several water districts, Otay, Sweetwater, and Metropolitan, Sandag, the Airport Authority, County of San Diego, Department of General Services, you'll hear from Wayne next, the airport, and also a local school district in San Diego Unified. But perhaps our most valuable sponsor is our college. Southwestern Community College is a tremendous host. They provide us all the facilities that we need. They give us a lot of resources, and this is a great place to be housed. We're co-located with an SBDC and a women's business center. So I can challenge any small business to walk into this facility. We call it the Center for Business Advancement. And if you need help, you can get it here. I'm positive. Next slide. Okay, who are we helping? You can see by this slide a variety of different types of folks, but you can see 242 million in contracts for fiscal year 22. That was our annual report. So lots of success stories, disadvantaged firms, veteran women, veteran owned, hub zone, all the certifications for the federal government. Whoops. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that was basically a little bit about who we are and what we do. A little bit more about me. You know, I was a Coast Guard officer. I did 20 years in the Coast Guard, so I understand DOD. I worked for the Navy for quite a long time down here in San Diego. We have advisors that have specific expertise. I have an advisor that's on my staff that ran the City of San Antonio Small Business Program. I have an advisor on my staff that was a regional director at one point and has been with the Apex program for almost 15 years. I've got another one that has fluent Spanish language skills. We've got another one that works very closely with the Asian Business Association here in San Diego and also in Orange County. So we've got a lot of expertise on our team. When you're doing government contracting, and as you prepare for this fair, you need to know what agencies are buying what you're selling, okay? So you got to figure that out. That's not something that you want to go up to an agency booth and say, hey, my name is ABC Construction. What do you buy? You want to know that going into it. So know what agencies buy your products and services. There's various tools you can use to try to figure that out. You know, the best one that I know of is the Federal Procurement Data System.gov, FPDS.gov, as well as USAspending.gov. Both of these resources we can take a deep dive into if you become a client of our center. I see people on the call that are already clients of the center, but certainly if you're not a client, you can become one, and we can look at what you sell, and we can find out if somebody in the government has purchased what you're selling. We can find out how much they paid for it, who they bought it from, and when they purchased it. So that's really good information about historical data, and that's how you can find out, hopefully, who in the government is the right person to approach for your product or services. If you can find your niche, that's awesome, okay? Because competition is very fierce. It's very fierce. So there's a lot of people out there that want to sell to the government. The federal government is the largest procurer of goods and services in the world, and I don't think that will ever change. The state of California just recently became the 4th largest economy. I did not misspeak, the 4th largest economy. We overtook Germany. So there's a lot of money available through state contracting, and Wayne's going to talk a little bit, probably more about that. But it's something that you really want to look into. So if you're certified to sell to the federal government, you certainly should look at selling to the state government as well, because both entities buy everything from paper clips to missiles, but we have to make sure that they're buying in such a quantity that it makes it worth your time. But if you can find your niche and you can winnow down that competition, that's going to make you much, much more powerful. Understanding government spending, you got to understand how the government buys. And it's different for the state government. It's different for the federal government. Particularly, we're coming up to the month of September. And for the federal government, the month of September is important because they all work on a use it or lose it budget. So if they haven't spent the money by September 30th, it goes back into the general fund. So there's a lot of, we call it back order purchases, or purchases that were possibly just pending if there were excess funds available. So you'll get a lot of people asking for bids. You'll get a lot of requests for quotes if you're a small business that sells to the federal government, because that fourth quarter, that last month, is when they're going to try to spend all their money. Now, for the state government, they work on a different fiscal year, right? It's July 1st through June 30th. So you got to figure that out as well. They're not known as much for that excess spending, but you have to understand how the federal government buys things, how the state government buys things, and if you're selling to the city of San Diego, how they're buying things. I want to emphasize that as a small business, you're going to want to have different vectors. You're going to want to have federal sales, state sales, local municipal sales, commercial B2B, because as the economy goes like this and we have these undulations, you want not to have all of your eggs in one basket. So you can't just rely on the federal government, because when the federal government tightens its strings, when the economy is going really well, they're going to turn that spigot off. That means you're going to have less money available in federal contracts. Right now, if you're in construction, due to the $1.4 trillion infrastructure bill, there's a lot of available construction and anything to do with roads. So that's why Caltrans is probably getting some extra federal money. That is out happening right now. When that's done and the economy is doing much, much better, you're going to go back to maybe working with the state or working with commercial contractors. So understand that. Finally, on this slide, let's talk about knowing your competition and their contracts. So when you look at those different types of websites where you can see who bought, who bought what and who they bought it from, figure out who your competition is, and let's figure out, am I competitive? If I've got a company that sells the same product, if I've got a company that sells widgets and I sell widgets, and they're selling widgets to the state government for $50 a pop, and I have to sell them for $60 a pop, there's no way you're going to get that business. And that's okay. It's just, that's a fact of life. They have better pricing from the manufacturer of that product because they probably sell more volume. It's volume, right? But don't waste your time bidding on things that your pricing structure is not there for. I'll tell you that when I first started my business, I went to, I would look at the postings and I'd say, okay, I can sell this. I'd go to Amazon, I'd get a price on Amazon, I'd put my bid together, 6, 7 pages. For the more complicated bids, it can be up to 50 pages. And I'd have good pricing, I'd have a good profit margin, and I would never, ever win. And that's because anybody can go to Amazon, get a price, put a markup on it, and bid it. You have to have a relationship with a manufacturer or somebody that sells that product that you can actually put a markup on it. Or if you're manufacturing it, you can put, enough markup to cover your costs and be competitive against the other people who are selling the same thing. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that you really have to. Can you go back to that one slide for a second?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, so again, knowing your competition, that is key. And not only your competition, but know your customers, listen to your customers, listen to your employees, because they all have good information about how to make your business better. All right, next slide, sorry. Okay, so the certifications, again, you want to get certifications that are going to help you leverage your contracting ability with whoever you're selling to. There are people out there who say, get as many certifications as you can. Cheryl's going to tell you the same thing. Don't. Get a certification that you're actually going to get some return on investment on, ROI. So if you're not going to sell to the federal government as a woman-owned small business because they don't buy what you're selling through set-asides with the WSB program, don't waste your time getting it. All right, the fourth certifications for the federal government, women-owned small business. You also have economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, hub zone, historically underutilized business zone, service disabled veteran-owned small business, and then the minority business program is called the small business, small disadvantaged business, or the 8A program. Right now, that program has been halted by the SBA. There's some issues with it. So if you're involved or you want to do that, certainly reach out to us and we can help you. The state has 2 programs, small business and DVBE. They have different levels for small business. But the state of California is probably the most democratic state in the country, and yet we only have 2 programs, small and DVBE, because of Prop 209. The city of San Diego, I'll use that one because this is the one that we're close to. You got the small local business emerging and the emerging local business enterprise. So the small local business enterprise and emerging local business enterprise, they both have different values, limits to how much you can make to be certified as those. And obviously the DBE, which is what Caltrans has, disadvantaged business enterprise. We also can talk about, I talked about CUPC, CPUC. There's acronyms all over the place. Don't get all upset about it if you don't know what they are. Simply ask, come see us, go to the SBDC, North County with Cheryl and her team. The women's business centers down here are really good, but get some help if you have some questions there. Next slide. Okay, so required capabilities, you got to have adequate financial resources. That means, if you're providing a service to the federal government, you need 60 to 90 days to cover your payroll, because those invoices are going to be submitted and not going to start rolling in the form of payments right away. So you need money to make sure you can service that contract. If you can't meet the delivery schedule, like if it says the delivery schedule is 60 days ARO, 60 days after receipt of order, you have to meet that. And when you bid it, you're saying, I can meet this specification. So don't not meet it. And if you can't, you might not want to bid it. Past performance, here's the chicken and the egg. Well, how do I get past performance with the government if I can't get a contract until I have it? Subcontracting, work as a subcontractor. You can take that past performance on that contract and use it. You have to start small and start growing, but you're going to need past performance. I always say integrity and ethics. That's something that I had to learn in the military. When I left the military, when I told somebody to do something as the executive officer, the commanding officer of a ship, they saluted, they said, yes, sir, and it was done. In business, when we agreed to something, somebody looked me in the eye, shook my hand, said it was going to happen. It doesn't always happen. Make sure it's in writing. But you, as a business, if you demonstrate ethics and integrity, I think then you will reap those rewards and you'll have other types of businesses and agencies appreciate that. If you're bidding something, make sure you have the organization. If there's, an experience factor, go ahead and make sure you have that. Accounting and operational controls. If you're using QuickBooks, if you're not using QuickBooks, make sure that you can manage the single contract as well as the entire business. Obviously, you got to have the technical skills. If you're making something, the production facilities and technical equipment and facilities. I will tell you that if you don't have these things, people say, well, I just want to get a bid in. Well, that's okay. You can practice on one or two, but just recognize when you bid 10 contracts for the state or the federal government and you win 3, you're doing well. So 7 out of the 10 times you're going to be putting in bids, which require significant effort and work, and you're not going to win. So you got to make that business case decision. Where do I want to spend my time and effort? Where is my most likely chance of winning? You got to figure that out. We have an easy tool. It's called no bid, no bid, something like that you can use for your organization is also good. And then make sure you're qualified and eligible to receive the award. So if you say that you're a DBE, make sure you're certified as a DBE, because that's very, very important. You don't want to say that you're certified as something that you're not. Next slide. Okay, finally, it's all about the customers. If you don't have customers, you don't have sales. If you don't have sales, you don't have money. We're in business to make money. Keep that in mind. I have a lot of companies that said, I'm just going to bid this to break even. Don't do that. Don't bid it to break even. Don't bid it to say, hey, I can keep my employees employed for another 6 months, but I'm going to lose money in this contract. Don't do that. It's just going to keep rolling, and it's going to have a bad end. All right. It doesn't matter when anyone thinks about your concept or your business except your customers, because if they don't care, no one will buy your product. You have to do market research. You have to gather information on potential customers, know your customer. So again, when you're going to go to the fair, Maria put up a slide of all the agencies that are going to be there. If you're interested in talking to some of those agencies, make a list, make an appointment with the Apex Accelerator or with the SBDC, and do some research together with your advisor on those organizations, and be ready to go to that booth talking with some information about that agency. So you're not asking questions, you're demonstrating also that you understand what they do and what they buy. And again, finally, customers can help you refine and perfect your business concept and business model, as well as your employees. Listen to your employees. They're the ones that are, on the floor doing the day-to-day business. I have advisors that tell me all the time, hey, Mike, we need to change this in this PowerPoint, or hey, I'm hearing a lot of questions about this from our client base. Let's give them some answers. So listen to the people that are telling you things about your business. And that was quick, but it was only 20 minutes. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the fair. It's a great event. It's awesome. And I want to thank Caltrans and Marie and her team for putting this all together. So thank you very much. And I'll take some questions, or are we going to go right on and wait for questions?
Yeah, we have a few questions in the chat. So first one is from Ernestus. He asks, we have an A8 application in progress since March. Where do we find out if we made the cutoff for the halt on certifications you mentioned?
We were told today that if the application was in process, it will be evaluated. They're not halting anything that was in process. They've halted any new applications. But if you're not working with somebody from an SBDC or from an Apex already, I suggest you do that, because there's a lot of confusion around the 8A program right now, and it would be better for you to have an advocate who has been talking to the SBA on a routine basis. So I'd advise that.
Thank you. Another question from Jerry. I'm a small business, also service-connected veteran. Do I get certified for VOSB and SDVOSB, and or pick one? How many certificates can my company hold?
Your company can have as many certifications as you want. For the VOSB and the SDVOSB, it matters who you're trying to get certified with. So the federal government, the requirement for a service-disabled veteran business is 0% disability rating, and that's a whole different conversation we'll do later. And for the state government, it's a 10% or more disability rating. If you're certified as a disabled veteran, there's no reason to get certified as a veteran-owned business, because you are. So if you can't get certified as a disabled vet, you can go ahead and certify as a veteran-owned business. But I will tell you, there's very, very few set-aside opportunities for VOSBs on the federal side, and there's none on the state side.
Okay, I think we have one more. Cheryl kind of answered it in the chat, but I'll just say it out loud in case anybody else has the same question. Will Apex Accelerator work with us as a client? We're not based in California, but we're certified as a DBE in California.
Yes. So previously, when we were operating under DLA, we were very restricted to who we could help. But now, if you want to do business in California, particularly Southern California, you can do business with us. If you're looking for Northern California or something, I'll probably direct you to an Apex up there. But we can help any business anywhere. I have clients from Georgia, Florida, and Texas right now, which is a really good change that DOD brought forth, because it makes sense to have the local Apex helping you seek business here locally. Kamal, yes, you're a LA-based business. We can work with you as well. There is an Apex in LA as well.
So should they reach out to you if they are located in not Orange or San Diego County, and then you can direct them?
Yeah, they can reach out to me or Luz Velasco. I'll put that, well, I guess I can't put, just reach out to me and I'll make sure that we get you an answer about who is your local Apex. And if you want to work with us, we'll certainly work with you.
Perfect. And then we had one more question come in from Pam. Can your agencies use CMAS, California LPA, or NASPO as a purchasing avenue?
So our agents, we don't purchase anything. We are here to help you learn how to work with other agencies that do that. The California Multiple Award Schedule, the CMAS schedule, is something that all state agencies in California can use. We can help you look at that if you have a CMAS and direct you to the agencies that might be using it. But we don't purchase anything.
Perfect. That might be a question that will be addressed later down the line, Pam. And that's all the questions we have. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Go ahead and skip that slide. You can skip these.
Yeah.
I took up too much time, so no worries.
Okay, there you go. Okay, is that it for questions?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Mike, for your presentation. And now I would like to bring Cheryl Brown out with the Small Business Development Center to give you a brief overview of SBDC services, as well as give you all some tips on preparing a 2-minute elevator speech in a virtual environment, which would help those who are interested in pitching their product or service or idea during the procurement fair. So welcome, Cheryl.
Hi, good morning, and thank you once again for inviting us and me to be part of this Prepare the Fair. I believe that we've been, gosh, working with this fair since 2008 or 9. Gosh, time sure does fly. But thank you again for inviting us to participate. And really, what I'd like to do today is kind of give you some tips as far as introducing yourself either in a virtual environment or in person, as well as provide you with an overview of some of the services that we do offer. So very much like Apex, we are a no-cost support services for the small business community. We have over 11 service centers that can help you in support of everything possibly you can need to be successful in your business, to include starting a business, strategic planning, marketing, financial statements, bookkeeping, government contracting, technology commercialization, cybersecurity. I mean, the list goes on and on. We have over 130 advisors, and all of our services are at no cost to you, just like with Apex Accelerator. If you're not engaged with any of these resources, please do so. I know that when we hear the word free, it can't be good, or it's too good to be true. Although our services are at no cost to you, our advisors are compensated. We are professional advisors. We are contractually obligated to do one thing, and that is to help move you forward every step of the way. So if you don't have that resource, or you're not engaging that support, I highly recommend that you do. Why wouldn't you? But anyway, so today I want to give you some tips on how to introduce yourself in both a virtual environment as well as in person. So when you go to the fair, you're going to have less than 10 seconds, if you will, to make a good first impression. Slide. So the elevator pitch. So my name is Cheryl Brown. I'm the director of the North San Diego SBDC, hosted by MiraCosta College. Our contact information can be found here at centerinfo@miracosta.edu. But what I would recommend is, if you're interested in engaging with our services, go to our website, sdivsbdc.org, and I'll put that in the chat as well. When you go to our website, there's going to be 3 options. You are going to see live trainings, on-demand trainings, and requests for an advisor. We try to make it super, super simple for you. If you're seeking government contracting support, the first step is you'll want to go to on-demand trainings, click on the government contracting block, and then participate in our on-demand government contracting series. This series is going to take you through all of the little intricacies and steps and kind of the dirt about government contracting. How do you navigate these portals? How do you find your buyer? How do you create a capability statement? Which certifications should you be familiar with? Everything that you could possibly need to give you a good foundation. Once you've attended that training, you're going to have access to a one-on-one advisor that will help you step by step navigate through the system. But as far as the elevator pitch, next slide, please. So we've all heard about an elevator pitch, and the reason why it's called an elevator pitch is because it was designed for you to be able to introduce yourself and make an impact when it comes to, in a very brief elevator trip. So typically, we see the 30 seconds. I'm going to say nowadays, keep it down to 10 or 20 seconds at the very most. This is a way for you to simply introduce yourself. This is the first step with marketing. It's a common misconception that with government contracting, it's all about the bid. Bid. You have everything out there is for bid. You have to compete with everybody else. There's no relationship, there's no rapport, there's no trust. That is not true. 90% of the contracts that get awarded, when you combine all the opportunities here in, even the state of California, about 90% do not require a full and open competitive bid. And part of the way that you become on that quote unquote unofficial list is by marketing. Next slide, please. I like to keep things simple. As an advisor, as a director, I am also a small business owner. I own a small business with my sons as technicians. And so these are all the things that I've done with regards to making the mistakes. So our approach to advising when it comes to specifically with government contracting is do as I say, not as I do. Everything comes right down to marketing. There is only one way for you to generate revenue, only one, and that is through marketing. And there are 3 levels of marketing. Obviously, the ultimate goal of marketing is to generate revenues, okay? But prior to that, 2 things have to happen. Your buyer, your customer, has to have name recognition. Chances are when you go to introduce yourself to a buyer or to a customer, maybe right now they don't need your product or service. But when they do, are they going to remember your name or are they going to remember somebody else's name? So the first step to marketing is name recognition. The second step is open dialogue or creating rapport. See, when you go to this fair and you go to introduce yourself to all of the points of contact at the fair, the first thing is none of them at this point can buy from you. They can't buy from you because they don't even know you exist. Now, they won't buy from you because they don't trust that you're going to be able to perform. And so part 1 is making a good first impression. But the follow-up and the following up is what ultimately generates revenue, not this first impression. Let me tell you something, a funny little quirk that maybe will resonate to you. If you are introducing yourself, if this is your first meeting with someone and they remember you at that first meeting, there's only 2 reasons why they remembered you. 1, you are an uppercase VIP, very important person, or you're a lowercase VIP, very irritating person. Remember, these are people. People like to do business with people they know, like, and trust. We hear it all the time, and the government really is no different. The one piece of the government that makes it a little bit different is that not only do they have to know, like, and trust you, but you also have to be able to meet their minimum requirements. So that's the piece. Next slide, please. This meeting is not an opportunity to get married. So I like to compare this to dating. So here you are, you're at the grocery store, right? And you see someone in the produce aisle and you're like, wow, they're really cute. This is your first meeting. This is your introduction. So this is kind of like your opportunity at the fair is introducing. You're like, ooh, I see that buyer. I see that agency. I want to do business with them. Just like that person you saw at the produce in the produce aisle. Now, when you're in that produce aisle, you don't go to that person and be like, blah, 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 and tell them your whole life story. No. The purpose of your introduction in the produce aisle is to simply get that phone number. Maybe even get the first date. I want you to think about your introduction when you're at the fair in the same way. What is your objective? Because this is your first meeting. Chances are they're not going to buy from you at that moment. Now, it does happen. Don't get me wrong. We've had a number of successes here. But the first thing has to happen is they need to know that you exist. So as you're approaching the buyer, just like you would approach the cutie in the produce aisle, what are you going to say? How are you going to impress them? How are you going to make that first impression? It's about getting the phone number or getting the first date. In this case, it's just getting some information. So how to prepare? Next slide, please. With an introduction, and pretty much with everything that you do, there's two pieces. There's the verbal and then the nonverbal. And, both are equally important. So the verbal's pretty easy, your name, your company name, a general idea of what you sell. Try not to first of all, not try, never, ever, 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 ever ask the buyer, what do you need? Buyers don't like to buy from the jack of all trades. So you want to find out, okay, what is your sweet spot? My name is, sorry, my dog's my alarm system. So, general product. Hey, my name is Cheryl Brown. I'm with the Small Business Development Center. We provide services to support small business, community, such as government contracting, accounting, and therefore. You also want to include maybe a reference to a past performance. So most recently we completed a project with the County of San Diego that resulted in blah, 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 blah. Then add your certifications, but it's not necessary at this point. But always ask an open-ended question. My favorite open-ended question is, hey, what is Caltrans doing in the areas of procuring environmental consulting services? Get that open dialogue. Now the nonverbal, super, super important. Remember this, early is on time is late. This is especially for government contracting. When there's a walkthrough or a pre-bidders conference or anything like that, if the start time is 10 a.m., guess what? You need to be there 5 minutes to 10. Because if you arrive at 10:01, chances are they're not going to let you in. That's where government contracting comes a little bit unique than other buyers, if you will. Make sure if you're doing an online intro, make sure you test your audio and video first. I know, there are so many things that we can control. Couple things we cannot control, or at least I can't control, is the internet, Zoom or WebEx, and then of course my kids. But make sure your audio and video is working. Dress to impress. Make sure from head to toe you're looking neat. Everything is, you're matching, all that good stuff. Depending on your industry, you may wear a suit, or maybe you're wearing your polo shirt with your company name. Remember tone of voice, eye contact. All of those things are important. So one of the things I recommend doing, and it's super uncomfortable, I'll tell you that right now, super uncomfortable, is take your phone, stand it up somewhere, leave the room, hit record, leave the room, and then come into the room and approach the phone as if the phone is your customer that you're going to be talking to. Now, practice this over and over and over again. And when you can rewatch the video without cringing, you've nailed it. Because maybe you don't even realize that when you walk into a room, you have an aggressive stance. You'll be able to see that when you're reviewing your video. I've had clients go up to contacts, go up to government agencies at the fair and get right up into their face and be like, you know what you're doing wrong. Does that make me want to buy from you? No. So let me get an example, and you can copy and paste this all day long. Next slide, please. This is an example. My name is Susan Smith, founder of S&S Engineering. S&S Engineering is a CSLBA licensed engineering firm. S&S Engineering specializes in bridges, tunnels, and overhead passes. This year, S&S Engineering designed and managed the SR99 project for Caltrans in Oceanside, California. S&S Engineering is certified as a DBE number 47869 and small business number 748597. What is Big Prime Company currently doing in the areas of procuring or outsourcing civil engineering services? Simple. Now, I know it kind of looks a little weird. You see S&S engineering, S&S engineering, S&S engineering. There's a reason for that. Remember, first step in marketing, name recognition. Second step, open dialogue, which is why we ask that open-ended question. What is so-and-so doing? What can I do? What certifications, if any? Try to create a list of 3 to 5 questions that you have ready on the tip of your tongue to ask the participants at the fair so that you can create an open dialogue. But remember, there's a lot of people there. You don't want to monopolize their time. So keep it short, keep it sweet, get some information, and then get out of there because you want to be able to follow up. Next slide. It's another example, very basic. Hi, my name is Joe Maloney, Business Development Representative for All Things Metal, Inc. All Things Metal is supplier of metal products used primarily for heavy construction projects such as carbon steel, aluminum, copper tubing, stainless steel. Eventually, if you have this memorized and you've practiced, this is going to come out very smooth, very confident. This is, like I said, copy and paste this, insert your information, and then practice it. Next slide, please. So some sample questions. Remember, you always want to try to have open-ended question. Refrain from closed-ended questions because it ends the communication, and we want to create open dialogue. So what questions can I answer? What is Caltrans currently doing in the areas of procuring? What are Caltrans' minimum requirements to be eligible for opportunities such as insurance, bonding, etc.? What would you need to be eligible for opportunities? What is the procurement process? What is important to you? These are all questions that help create an open dialogue. Make sure you take notes of the responses because you're going to want to follow up based on the responses. Following up is where revenues get generated. The follow-up is where you create name recognition. The follow-up is where you create an open rapport, building rapport. Next slide, please. Some tips. First of all, memorize your pitch. Memorize it, memorize it, memorize it. Practice, 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 practice. Use your phone. Record it. Watch your body language. Watch your engagement. Watch your tone of voice. Create an open dialogue. Be prepared for questions. That's ideal. It's, you have control of the marketing piece. The marketing piece you fully control. You have really no control over the sales part. The sales part is controlled by your customer. And you'll know when you're meeting that transition is when your customer starts asking you questions. I know this is really obvious, but be nice. Just, be nice. You have to be patient. These things do take time. This is a quote that I have. I changed the names to protect the guilty, but this is literally a statement from a buyer who will remain nameless that says, they said, quote unquote, "Bill, do you know why we always call on your company whenever we can? Because you're always so accommodating and nice. You don't yell at us." Can you imagine yelling at a customer? Can you imagine going up to a customer and say, "You owe me. I'm a certified small business. I'm a disabled veteran business enterprise. I'm a DBE. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm an SOB." Are you all there? Just making sure you're still with me and not asleep at this point. What is it? Just be nice. Don't be aggressive. With that being said, that's my 2-minute pitch. Not even 30 seconds. Remember, this is dating, not getting married. Love it. Next slide, please. I'd love to be able to answer some questions. We do have a ton of resources available between Apex and Mike's group, who are ridiculously amazing, and the SBDC program, and the Caltrans small business programs. There's no reason why you can't be successful. There's none. We're here to help you. We're here to help you be successful. But don't be like my kids that don't listen to me. Just do what we tell you to do, how we tell you to do it, and I promise you, you will be successful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Questions? Anybody questions? That's one of my favorite presentations, by the way. I love the pitch presentation.
I mean, you gave dating advice and contracting advice. Not a lot of people can do that.
It's a weird, I think it's really a weird talent that I have is making a topic like government contracting kind of fun and quirky. I mean, I've been doing this since 2003. I got involved with it as a hobby. I mean, like, who does that? And the guidance that I provide is because I made the mistakes. Like, literally, like, don't do that because I did that. But yeah, definitely, you can do this. I promise you, you can do this. We just reached the milestone since our program launched, our procurement program launched in 2009. We have helped over 4,000 small businesses obtain over $1 billion, that's with a B, $1 billion in contracts awarded to those small businesses. And for those of you who are here that are like, hey, I'm a party of one, maybe you're a dinner for two, maybe you're like with my little business here where you're a family feast of five if you include all the kids and the dogs and the cats. And so you're feeling like these are too big, this is too much for me. I'm telling you right now, it's not. It's not. And we're here to help you and navigate as to what's going to be best for you.
Cheryl is definitely the place to start, and she's very reliable. And I don't see any other questions for you, Cheryl. But if you guys, oh, here they come. Okay, from Lewis. How can I improve my presentation skills using your agency? Do you have a team who can listen and attend a WebEx or Zoom from us?
Yeah, hey, Lewis, absolutely. Depending on who your audience is, we can connect you with a variety of different advisors. So we do have a couple specialty centers that are solely focused on technology commercialization and tapping into VC, angel, SBIR funding. So it depends on who your audience is. So if you're looking at presenting in front of venture capitalists, so you're trying to get funds or maybe angel investors, we would connect you with those resources. If it's government contracting, we have that program. So we have several different programs under our umbrella. So depending on your audience, yes, we can help you. And by the way, we're upfront and honest. We're never mean, but if we're going to give you constructive criticism. We're going to give you feedback, and we're going to be upfront and honest.
And should they reach out to that centerinfo@miracosta.edu to get more information on that?
What I would recommend is if it's not government contracting related, if it's all of our other resources, I would definitely go to our website first. And like I said, there's 3 options. And then when you click on, if you get an advisor, you're gonna have to answer some basic questions. Within 24 to 48 hours, you're literally gonna get a phone call from an intake, from an administrative admin assistant who's gonna help you get scheduled to the appropriate advisor to help you.
Perfect. And I will put that link in the chat. I think that's it for Cheryl. So thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing all of you at the fair and seeing your wonderful presentation skills.
Well, thank you, Cheryl, again for sharing all those great tips with everyone. Now I would like to welcome Wayne Gross with the Department of General Services to talk to us about a couple of the certifications Caltrans recognizes, the process to get those certifications, and its benefits. So, hi, Wayne, welcome.
Good morning. So let's start this mess. There we go. Next slide. And the next one. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wayne Gross. I'm a business outreach liaison for the last 14 years. My email address, very important, please copy it down, wayne.gross@dgs.ca.gov. And my phone number, 279-946-8387. I'm your atypical state worker. The only dumb question is the one you don't ask. And that question won't come to mind during my work hours of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And so you'll be sitting there on a Monday night with your partner watching Dancing with the Stars. And that question comes up. You have my contact information. Just, email me, call me. I answer the phone. And hopefully I can answer your question, or I may say, hey, just call me tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, whatever. Okay. Whatever time's conducive to both our schedules. But I'm here for you, just like Cheryl and Mike are. Okay. You have all these resources. Use us, abuse us. Okay. Remember, we are all free. Next slide. Okay, in my presentation, I'm going to be talking about our small business and disabled veteran business enterprise, or DVBE program. We'll talk about eligibility, the benefits, our website, Cal eProcure, and our emergency registry. Next slide. So the state has two goals. We have a 25% small business goal and a 3% DVBE goal. Next slide. Unfortunately, we did not. Oh, this is this was fiscal year 2021. We did 21.2 billion, of which because of COVID and the fires, we only did 14.6%, and which was only 3.1 billion. I bet you'd like to have a little piece of that. And 2.5% for DVBE, or if you're a DVB, want a little piece of that 520 million. Next slide. Okay. On the previous slide, I want to tell you last year's data. We missed our 25% goal by 0.17. Yes, we did 24 point, what was that? 03, something like that. We did meet our DVBE goal. What that's basically telling me, and should tell you, is the state's back to some type of normalcy. So now talking about our state certifications, we have 3: small business for the purposes of public works, and the disabled veteran business enterprise. Next slide. Our benefits, we have a 5% bid preference for small businesses. What that means is it has to be put into the solicitation that there will be a 5% bid preference for small businesses. And the way that works, I've collected all of my small business quotes, okay? And there is the lowest certified quote is for 102,000. And then the lowest non-certified bid is 100,000. Just with that information, the non-certified bid of 100,000 should win. However, with the 5% bid preference, what would happen is the administrator would take 5% of the lowest non-certified bid. So 5% of 100,000 is 5,000. We would subtract that from the lowest certified bid of 102. That bid now is 97. So 97 versus 100, the certified bid is going to win. The good news is they're going to win it at the original 102,000. So are you going to know about this when it comes to bidding? No. The moral of the story is to, dot your I's, cross your T's when you're putting in a bid. Obviously, you want to have a markup, that where you're going to make some money, but just realize that if there is a small, a bid preference for small businesses, that you have a fighting chance of getting it. If you are a DVBE, you have up to 5% incentive. Okay. And here again, each solicitation is different. If there is an incentive, it can get up to 5%. So the moral of my story is, if you qualify for both small business and DVBE, get both of them. Get both certifications, because you could get up to 10% in certification benefits. Also, with the benefits, you get exclusive contract opportunities. That's called Cali Procure. If you are a small business, you get what we call prompt payment. Once you turn in an undisputed invoice, the agency has to pay you within 45 days. Okay. It's for small businesses only. Okay. And if, let's say, they pay you at 60 days and your invoice was for $10,000, you should be receiving a check for $10,000 and maybe $127.17. That late fee is automatically added to your invoice. Okay. We have what we call reciprocity partners. Those are agencies throughout the state that honor the small business and or DVBE certification. We have a list, and in San Diego, you are so blessed because there's like 8 different reciprocity partners. And I think you've heard of a few: the city, the county, the airport, the school district, Sandag, public housing, just to name a few. And why would I bring that to your attention? My job is to afford you every opportunity possible. And then if you are in a prime versus subcontract situation, you can place an ad on any formal solicitation in Cali Procure where a prime is looking for subs. And it's all there's that free word again. Next slide, please. So back in the 70s, we had an expression. It was called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. As Mike referenced, our state small business certifications for small business PW, and DVBE is streamlined. It is so simple. Okay. The requirements for small business are independently owned and operated, not dominant in the field of operation. That phrase basically means there's competition in what you do. The principal office is located here in California. We don't want any of the riffraff from Oregon, Arizona, Pennsylvania. This is your program, people. The owners or officers of a corporation are located here in California, and there is 100 or fewer employees, and the gross annual receipts, that's the GARs, is less than 16 million with the affiliates, and that's an average over the last 3 years. And if you're a manufacturer, it's 100 or fewer employees, and there's no GARs cap on this. Next slide. For public works, the same 4 requirements: independently owned and operated. There's competition out there. Everyone is located here in California. Okay. The only for the Public Works, we've raised it from 100 to 200 or fewer employees, and the gross annual receipts go from 16 to 37 million, and that's over the last 3 tax years with the affiliates. If you are a manufacturer, you have the 200 and the GARs, the 37 million. You have to meet both. Okay, next slide. Okay, you're a small business. You have 10 people and you make, let's say 5 million. And you're in Public Works. Do you need to get the Public Works certification? No. Okay. You want to wait until you're up to getting close to the 100 and or the GARs of 16 million. Okay. You with the Public Works, all you get are Public Works solicitations. With the small business, you will get the Public Works stuff, as well as, let's say that you do landscaping also. Okay, that kind of stuff. Okay, you'll get all that with the SB. Next slide. DVBE requirements. You must be at least 10% service disabled. You must be 51% owned by the disabled veteran or veterans. It's 100% if you are limited liability. Okay. The veterans must live here in California. That's why it's a California program. The company can be, in Arizona, but the owners have to be here in California, and headquarters has to be here in the United States, obviously. Now, and here's the big one. And this also goes for the federal certification, that the DVBE has to manage and operate the company. It's your company. You better be able to manage it on the day-to-day operations. And that letter saying that you're at least 10% service disabled has to be dated within 6 months of when you're getting certified. So let's say your letter is 2 years old. Okay, you've been getting disability for 2 years. Okay, that letter is dated 2 years ago. Okay, if you go to e-benefits, and on that page, you will find a link to your letter of entitlement, and you click it and you print it out, and you have today's date on it. That's how this works. It's the only thing from the Department of Veterans Affairs, the feds, that is easy to attain. Next slide, please. Let's skip this till we get to the end, okay? So next slide. We're going to now talk about Cal eProcure. That is our website where we keep our solicitations. It's caliprocure.ca.gov. Next slide. And this is where you're going to register your business. You'll apply for certification. Those are 2 separate things that you have to do. This is where you'll find solicitations and contracts. You'll receive notifications. You appear in searches by state buyers. You can post an ad seeking prime or subcontracting. You have access to public procurement information, training, and resources. And again, it's free. There's no cost. And just to let you know, there are people out there who will charge you to do what you can do for free. The last time I heard, you can get certified, registered and certified by some person out there for only $500. Save your money. This is all free. Next slide. This is what our website looks like. Okay. Next slide. And you'll notice on the top right, there's a button that says Login Register. Next slide. This is where, once you are registered, you'd put in your user ID and password. Next slide. At the bottom, when you're initially trying to get registered as a bidder, you will click that new bidder registration button. Next slide. And you'll also be asked to provide supplier diversity information. This is all for us internally at our certification people. And it doesn't do anything. You can change it. You can remove it anytime. There's no preference for contracts. It is displayed on your certification profile at the bottom. It will say keywords. It will say your UNSPSC classifications, and then the supply diversity information. Okay, and if you go to that website, www.dgs.ca.gov/PD-supplier diversity-program, you'll come to the program and see all that information. Here again, it is totally voluntary. Next slide. So we're back to Cali Procure. You got your temporary password, and you've established a user ID. Next slide. We're going to log in again. Next slide. This time we're going to put in our user ID and password at the middle of the screen. Next slide. Next slide. And there you are. And you'll notice in the middle, it says no certification record. Get certified. Next slide. So you're going to click that button because it says apply for certification at the bottom. Next slide. And it will take you to this page. And next slide it'll say get certified, apply or reapply. Your certification is good for 2 years, and 90 days prior to your expiration date, the system will generate an email saying you have 90 days to get recertified, and you would come to this page and click the recertification. Next slide. And this is where you'll get back on the workplace on our website. Next slide. It says get started. Okay. And then you would apply for the certification. Okay. Next slide. Okay. When you fill out your application on the registration as well as your certification, you're going to put in keywords. This is how the agencies find you. Okay. And so you want to make sure you describe your goods or services. Okay. And so you want to make sure that you pick your keywords. Okay. Next slide. With the UNSPSC codes, the United Nations Specialty Product Specialty Codes, not to be confused with the NAICS codes, the North America Industry Classification System, that is the Fed's, that's their codes. Ours are the UNSPSC codes. There are 4 levels. Level 1 is the first 2 digits and then 6 zeros. The second is the next subheading, if you will. Level 2, it's the first 4 digits and 4 zeros. The third level is the first 6 digits and 00. We call that the parent code because it always ends in 00. And then the fourth level is the specific 8-digit code identifying specifically what you're trying to sell. We use the level 3, the parent codes, and level 4, the 8-digit specific. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. Finding contract opportunities. That is our California State Contracts Register. That is Cali Procure. Next slide. Okay. here's the home page, and you'll see right in the middle, next slide. You always want to log in when you're looking for solicitations. And the reason why is that there's more information when you log in than if you just go in blindly, if you will. Next slide. Okay, here we are again. And next slide. Okay, we're going to start search. Okay, that's one way. And you'll notice at the very top, it has my work center. And then the third one says quick links. You can use that and you'll get the same thing as if you were doing a start search. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is our search engine. You can do either event name, that's a fancy way of saying a keyword. Event name, that is where if you happen to know what the event ID is, or you can do it by department. And you'll notice to the right, there are 3 black lines. And when you click that, it gives you a list of all of the state departments. Now, 2 things. Number 1, this is numeric, not alphabetical. So you're going to have to go down and find, let's say, Department of General Services. It's going to be right down at the very bottom. Okay. If you're looking for Caltrans or Calvet, you will not find them because Calvet on this list is Department of Transportation. And Calvet is Department of Veterans Affairs. So don't be frustrated. You may have to go through, there's a couple other agencies that aren't what we say they are. Okay. Next slide. You can do an advanced search. Next slide. And there are 3 other options. The first one is, next slide, UNSPSC codes. If you know either the 6, the parent code ending in 00 or the 8-digit specific, you can put that in there and do a search of all of what's current in the database. The next slide, is the service areas. That's a fancy name for counties. You can do a search specifically by San Diego County, for example. You'll get all of them listed. And finally, the last one is, next slide, contractor license type. So if you are a C10 license holder, you can put that in and you can do a search, okay, whatever C10 is, okay? Next slide. And here are a list of the results. Then you can click on it and hopefully you're still logged in, and then you can get, you can open up the solicitation. So next slide. Okay, this is what a typical solicitation looks like. On the top, there are 3 columns. The one on the left gives you the date, the ID number. It tells you when it was posted, and it gives you a general description so that you can look at it and go, no, I'm not interested in it. Okay. In the middle, the most important thing is the last thing, and this information, which is the date it ends and the time it ends. And so very important, because if you go past that time, let's say it's 12 o'clock and they received it at 10 minutes after 12, that quote doesn't count. Okay. On the far right, you have all of the documents that you need to look at the solicitation and put in a quote. Okay. Then you can view ads, and then you can place an ad. And this is the KISS principle all over again. They ask you for your company name, your phone number, and then you put in, I believe the next slide, let's see, can you go to the next slide? Let's see if it does. Nope, go back a slide, please. Go back a slide, please. There you go. Anyway, with the place an ad, you have a description section, which is 2,000 characters, not words, but characters. And so I tell everyone, put in your certification number, SB space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then as you're typing, there'll be a little area that will say 1999, 98, 97, so that you don't go past 0. Okay. But you always want to put your certification number on there so that the prime can pull up your profile and see exactly what you do. Okay. You'll notice under that is the contact information. These are the administrator of that specific solicitation. They have the option of giving you their phone number. 90% of them will not. And then they have an email. Now, I put I read this solicitation and I find an error. Okay, it's a big error. And so I email the administrator and say, hey, here's a problem. You need to correct it, right? And I get an email saying, yes, you're right, Wayne. And they say they'll correct it. Okay. Well, the thing is, they don't. Okay. And so it continues. I didn't win the bid. Okay. Someone else did. Okay. So we're in front of a judge because I told the administrator there was a problem that would change the context of the solicitation. And I also brought in the person who was awarded the bid. Okay. So there's the three of us in front of the judge, and the judge says, what's going on? I explained to them what the problem was. The administrator agrees. And then the judge says to me, do you have proof of that conversation? And I say, oh, you mean this email, this paper trail? Okay. That's why I'm surprised that this person has given a phone number. Okay. You want everything that you talk to this administrator about this solicitation in writing. So if there's something goes wrong, you've got proof. Okay. And so the judge says, looking at what you asked for, you're absolutely right, Mr. Gross. Okay. And so the administrator says, yes, I'm going to have to repost this and with the corrected information. And then says to the awarded person, sir, because of the evidence presented here by Mr. Gross, you did not get awarded this because of the situation. So you will be able to put in a new request, a new quote, when the administrator puts it back, on Cali Procure with the updated information. We're sorry for any inconvenience, but we have to follow the law. Okay, getting back to the solicitation, under the administrator, you have pre-bid conferences, either mandatory or not mandatory. This is designed for you as a small business or DVBE subcontractor. Okay. Caltrans is excellent in having mandatory pre-bid conferences. Okay. And what that means is, as a prime, I have to sign in when I go to this mandatory pre-bid conference. If I do not sign in and I put in a quote, the first thing they do is check the sign in. If my name or my company isn't on that list, that quote means nothing to them. Okay. And because it's mandatory, all the primes are going to show up because they have to sign in, right? And so let's say it is a Caltrans pre-bid. So Caltrans gets up, they do their spiel, 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. They answer questions that they can answer, okay? And then they tell the primes to go to their respective table. And this is where you come into play and you go and you introduce yourself. Okay. The 30-second elevator speech that you've been practicing because Cheryl told you what to do, what to say in 30 seconds or less, right? And then you give them a copy of your resume, okay, your capability statement. And I am offering my services. Cheryl is offering her services, and Mike is offering his services to help you with the capability statement and the review, all for free. Okay. That person will take your capability statement, look at it, and say, oh, yeah, I'm looking for, a painter. And that's what you do. Okay. Or they'll say, hey, I'm sorry, Mr. Gross. I can't use this, but I'm going to take it back to my company, give it to, the people that put in bids so that they know that if there is a painting situation, you will be contacted to put in a quote. Okay. Further on down on this solicitation, it tells you what UNSPSC code or codes were used that you received this solicitation. And then it tells you the type of contractors, is it a painting, whatever, constructions, etc. And then finally, the area. Is this specific to San Diego County? Is it statewide? Whatever. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Research past purchases. This is Skippers. Okay, state contract and procurement registration system. Next slide. This is a database of completed contracts. Next slide. Okay, and it includes state and non-state dollars. It's public faced. Okay, and this is how you do market research. Next slide. Here we are on our home page. Next slide. Bottom left says find public procurement information, or at the top under quick links, the fourth option is the same. Next slide. Next slide. And you'll see under search for second one, past purchases. That is Skippers. So you click it. Next slide. And on the top, you either can do a search by description, okay, keyword. On the left side, you can do it by department or specific company, or you can do at the bottom, it says advanced search, and that way you can put in a UNSPSC code. The nice thing about the UNSPSC code is you can put in more than one. You could put in 5 or 10, okay? With the description, you can only put in one word per search, okay? When you do hit search, you will not automatically get this Excel spreadsheet, which is fantastic, okay? What will happen is on the top right of your computer screen will be a circle that goes around and around and around. It's going all the way back to December 15, 2015. So we're talking almost 8 years of completed contracts that it's doing a search. So with that in mind, I tell people, go to the bathroom, go pour yourself a cup of coffee, let the dogs out in the backyard to do their business. Hopefully by the time you've done all that you get your results. All I'm saying, it will not be instantaneous. Even if it says no results found, which is probably the most infuriating thing, that you've done all that and nothing to show for it. But anyway, you have this Excel spreadsheet, and the first column is the agency that owns the solicitation. The second item on the column is the purchase order that identifies the solicitation. The fourth column is the first line on the solicitation. It has start and stop dates, and then it has the grand total of how much the solicitation was, and then it gives you the supplier's name, and if they are certified small business or DVB, their certification number. On the far right, the fourth column from the end, which I don't have a picture of, is the buyer's name and their email. Now, you will not directly call the buyer because you're not going to have their name, but you will have their email. And so you are interested, let's say, in this first one. Okay. And so what you would do is you obviously would put in the buyer's email, and in the body, I would just copy and paste that whole line. Okay. And then ask for a copy of the solicitation and a copy of the winning bid. Okay. That way you have context of, you know, what they asked for and what they wanted because of the winning bid. Okay. Next slide. Next slide. Advocates. These are your new best friends. As Cheryl said at the coming up event for Caltrans, I know for a fact that I'll be there. There'll be other agencies there. Okay. Obviously, Caltrans, their advocate's going to be there. Okay. It's not what you know, it is who you know. Okay. And so any agency that procures $100,000 or more must have an advocate. Okay. Next slide. And their role is to represent you. You got problems with getting paid, or you want to know upcoming solicitations. The advocates are the people you want to talk to. Next slide. So we go to Cali Procure. Next slide. The bottom right one says find training and resources. Next slide. Here is the training and resources page. And under next slide, research and marketing, the second bullet is the advocate list. You'll click that. Next slide. And here is the directory. And in the middle, next slide, it says download the advocate directory. You click that. Next slide. And you get the Excel spreadsheet of 255 lines. First of all, my name is there under Department of General Services because I'm an advocate, but I'm not on the contract side. My job is doing what I'm doing right now, getting you educated, getting you certified, getting you to be marketable. Okay. And so you'll notice we have this thing called the small business DVBE option, where the buyer goes in for IT and non-IT goods and services from $5,000 and a penny up to $250,000 minus a penny, and $5,000 and a penny and up to $388,000 for public works. All the buyer has to do is go in and find at least 2 small businesses or 2 DVBEs. You cannot mix the 2. Okay, the moral of the story with the SB and DVBEs is if you qualify to be certified both, here's another reason why you want to get it. Because if I'm looking for small businesses, you're on that list. If I'm looking for DVBEs, you're on that list. Okay, so you'll notice there's highlighted agencies there. And here's why. 7 years ago, our director said that this option was a bunch of bunk. Why? Because they had people like Wayne Gross out there trying to lure you into getting certified. Okay. And so wouldn't it be only logical that my Department of General Services, all of our buyers would come to you first? Okay, that'd be a benefit, right? So we got rid of the option and came up with a first policy. It's exactly the same as the option, with the exception of it's not optional anymore. The buyer has to come to you in the database of certified small businesses and DVBEs. Still have to find at least 2 small businesses or 2 DVBEs. Okay, you need that for competition. Literally, the buyer could call, the advocate could call you up and say, hey, would you be interested in doing a quote for this? And they go, yeah, sure. And so, I verify your email, send you the quote and say, hey, I need it by 12 o'clock on Friday. Okay. Don't be late. So, like I said before, I call 5 people, 4 of them give me the quote before 12 o'clock. The last one, I receive it, I verify it. It's 2 minutes after 12. Okay. I told everyone to have it in by 12 o'clock. My email stated, make sure I receive this before 12 o'clock, the cutoff. And so that 5th one is what we call non-responsive. You're not following my directions. That's one of our ways of, getting rid of quotes. Okay. Instead of reviewing 5, I only have to review 4. Okay. And literally I could call you up on Monday and say, congratulations, you won. When can you start? Okay. That's how easy it is. Okay. So, going back to the first policy, there are 18 agencies on this list that had the first policy. And so the people that you would want to talk to first are the ones highlighted in yellow. And then you see column C has construction. So if you are in public works, okay, I've taken your list of 255 down to about 60 now. And at the very end is where Caltrans is, okay? Because it's under Department of Transportation. And last July, they came up with a small business first policy. It's only for small businesses, not DVBEs, and I'll explain why. And it goes all the way up to 388,000. And so if you want to do business with Caltrans, you need to talk to the advocates there. Now, the reason it's only for small businesses and DVB and not DVBEs is because, as I said at the beginning, we have a statewide 3% goal for DVBEs. Caltrans, as well as Calvet, raised their goals to 5%. So if you have a goods or services that either Caltrans or Calvet can do, there's your in, okay? Because they have a 2% extra on their goals. Next slide. Next slide, please. Uh-oh. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, oh good. We're getting near the end. Our emergency registry. Because of the fires and COVID, as I said before, the last 3 years, and 3 years ago and 2 years ago, we did not meet our 25% small business goal and the 3% DVBE goal. And so my peers literally created this emergency registry. It is to be used by all state buyers, okay? And it is the next slide, please. Okay, and we started out with like 15 different categories, and we are now up to 30 categories. And so next slide. Okay. This is the KISS principle. Once again, keep it simple, stupid. Here is all when you go and you register, these are the things you need to have. Your certification number, your emergency categories, and you can have more than one category. And then you give us a description of the goods or services you're providing, your business address, and your contact information, both primary and emergency after hours. How simple can that be, right? You'll hit submit, And unfortunately, you will not get congratulations because someone has to review your application. But what happens is there's like 5 or 6 people, everyone is assigned a different day, and it's their responsibility to review your application that day. So by the end of the close of business that day, you should get either congratulations, you're in the database, or there's something wrong and they will send you an email asking you to correct it or whatever. Okay. And then if you're a buyer, okay, buyers have to be registered in this database also so that they can see who in the database is there that they can contact. Okay. Now, this is an emergency. You've got a fire in your foothills behind you. You can see the smoke. Okay. Someone calls you up and says, hey, I need 50 porta potties. They need to be delivered by Friday to this point. Can you do it? And you go, oh, hell yeah, no problem. Price isn't even discussed. Okay. This is an emergency. Okay. So you do your job. Okay. 50 porta potties are there. 2 weeks later, everything's done. You send in an invoice. Okay. Now, the buyer has been doing this for 20 years. He knows how much it should have cost him. Okay. And let's say it should have cost only 10,000, but you bill us for 20. Okay. Well, we're going to pay you the 20. Okay. But if there's another emergency for porta potties in your back door, you ain't getting, another emergency call. Okay. Because, hey, let's be fair and reasonable here. Okay. Don't try and gouge us. Next slide, please. Here's Cali Procure again. Next slide. We're going to go to find training and resources again. Next slide. And at the 1, 2, 3, the 4th heading, inside state contracting, the 3rd bullet is our emergency registry. Click it. Okay, and you get registered there on the top left. Last thing is commercially useful function, and this is CUF. This is executing a distinct element of the work, performing, managing, or supervising the work, performing work that is normal for the firm's business services and functions, negotiating price, determining quality and quantity, ordering, installing, and making payment, not subcontracting a portion of the work greater than expected by industry practices. Next slide. This is what it's not. Here's the big one. Being used as a pass-through to obtain the appearance of small business DVB participation. I'll give you a real quick example. My brother-in-law is a DVBE, and I contact him and say, hey, Bob, you're still certified as a DVBE? And he goes, yeah. And I go, I want to use your certification number. You don't have to do the work. I'll do it because I'm a prime. I can do the work. Okay. But I need DVB participation. Once it's done, I will slip you a check for $5,000. You think that doesn't happen? And guess what? If you're caught, there is monetary problems. Plus, you could actually lose your certification if it's extreme. So don't, okay? Next is not being used to perform the work as stipulated in the bid. Okay, I know the prime called me up. I gave him a quote. He submitted the bid with my name as the small business on it, right? But I never did the work. Okay, so it's been completed. You know the job is completed, but they never called you. You call up the administrator and say, hey, I was supposed to do the work and I never got called. The prime's on the chopping block, okay? And last, it says no longer used to provide the goods or services listed in the initial bid. Okay, with my brother-in-law and sister, they get a divorce. He doesn't. He's doing the job, okay, but he stops work. Okay, I try and get, I contact him, he's not contacting me. I contact the administrator and say, hey, my DVB is not working. They contact the DVBE and say, if you don't start work by the 15th of this month, then we're taking you off and you'll get paid up until the 15th of August. Okay. And so then because it's a DVBE and let's say it's a Caltrans contract, not only does the buyer, the administrator of the contract, but DGS is involved because it's DVB participation. And so the two of us have to go and find a substitute for that DVBE. So, be honest, do what you say you can do. Next slide. So resources, you've got the Small Business Development Center. That's Cheryl. You've got the Apex Accelerators. That's Michael. And you have SCORE, which are retired professionals, and they help you with business mentorship. Here again, all three are free. Next slide. We talked about the Small Business DVB program, the eligibility requirements, the benefits, our database, Cali Procure. You got to see where all the solicitations are housed, and the different things, the advocates and the emergency registry. There's a link also for reciprocity. And then finally, our emergency registry. And we talked about CUF. Next slide. If you want to go to our LinkedIn, you can follow us. Next slide. You can also schedule a consultation on state contracting, registering and certifying, updating your Cali Procure profiles, find contract opportunities. Next slide. Thank you. Next slide. Are there any questions? Oop. Are there any questions?
Hi, Wayne. We didn't see any questions throughout your presentation, so I think we're gonna move on to the next.
If
Thanks.
I could add one last thing. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, I do a presentation. I call it I Can Change Your Life. It talks about updating your Cal eProcure profiles. You have 2 of them. And out of the 19,000 small businesses and DVBEs in our database, excuse my frankness, but at least 18,000 profiles aren't meeting the grade. Okay, they stink. Okay, and that's why I do a presentation tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If you are interested, I call it I Can Change Your Life. We talk about your profiles and reciprocity, advocates, the emergency registry, and a thing called the California Multiple Award Schedule. That is California's version of the GSA, the federal program. And all you have to do, you have my email address, waynd.gross@dgs.ca.gov. And just send me an email and say, needs training. That's all you need to do. And I will send you the Teams link tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wayne, for sharing this valuable resource with everyone. Now I would like to bring Leticia Magayan from Caltrans Office of Civil Rights to talk to us about another certification Caltrans recognizes, its advantages, requirements, and best practices. Welcome, Leticia.
Thank you. Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is, again, Leticia Magayan, and I'm a certification analyst with Caltrans Office of Civil Rights in the certification branch. Today, I'm going to be presenting an overview on the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE, certification program. Next slide. Along with an overview of the DBE program, we're also going to learn about some of the benefits of certification, the eligibility requirements for the program, and we will go over some frequently asked questions and resources at the end. Next slide. A DBE is a for-profit small business that is at least 51% owned by one or more individuals who are both socially and economically disadvantaged, and who also control the management and daily business operations of the DBE business. Next slide. The DBE program is a legislatively mandated program implemented by the states as a condition of receiving federal funds via the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, the Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, and the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, who all oversee the program and implement the rules. The U.S. Department of Transportation distributes a significant amount of federal funds for transportation-related projects to recipients, such as state and local governments, public transit authorities, and airport entities. The operating administrations for the FTA and FHWA follow the rules under the Code of Regulations, or CFR 49 Part 26, and the FAA follows the rules under CFR 49 Part 23. Next slide. The DBE program objectives are to ensure non-discrimination in the award and administration of federally funded contracts in Caltrans's highway, transit, and airport financial assistance programs, to create a level playing field on which DBEs can compete fairly for federally funded contracts, to ensure the DBE program is narrowly tailored in accordance with applicable law, to ensure that only firms that fully meet eligibility standards of 49 CFR Part 26 are permitted to participate as DBEs. And just to note, if you want to see the regulations for 49 CFR Part 26, you can find them at www.ecfr.gov. Next slide. The benefits of DBE, ACDBE certification are that it's recognized by 900 local agencies in California. It expands opportunities to participate in federally funded contracts. DBE certified firms become accessible to prime contractors who are needing to fulfill DBE participation goal requirements. DBE certified firms get listed in the CUCP database, which is available to all state agencies and to the general public. And you get training and networking opportunities like this networking event you're attending today. Next slide. So now we'll be moving on to the California Unified Certification Program, which is also referred to as the CUCP. Next slide. As mandated by the U.S. Department of Transportation, or USDOT, California's Unified Certification Program is an agreement between multiple certifying agencies in California. The CUCP provides a public database to find DBEs, and you can also use the database to view competitors' profile information. Next slide. Along with Caltrans, here's a list of the other DBE certifying agencies in California. The main difference between Caltrans and most of these agencies is that while Caltrans certifies eligible firms throughout the state of California, the other agencies provide DBE certification mainly for firms located in their geographic area. These other agencies include the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or Metro, Bay Area Rapid Transit, or BART, and the City of Fresno, just to name a few. Next slide. Okay, so now we're going to talk about DBE eligibility. Next slide. The certifying agencies are required to request personal identification documents, tax documents, and business documents to certify that the potential DBE does meet the eligibility criteria. The 6 eligibility requirements that are listed on this slide must be proven by the DBE applicant via the documentation that they provide. These are the 6 main eligibility requirements, but they do cover all requirements found in 49 CFR Part 26. And we will go over them in the next slides. Next one. Social and economic disadvantage. The US DOT defines socially and economically disadvantaged individuals as any individual who has been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias within American society simply because of his or her identity as a member of a group or groups and without regard to his or her individual qualities. The list here shows the 6 presumptive groups who are considered disadvantaged by the federal government, and these include Asian Pacific Americans, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, Subcontinent Asian Americans, and women. If you do not fall within one of these presumptive groups, you can still apply, but you will need to submit a narrative explaining how you are socially and economically disadvantaged. Next slide. Ownership. So ownership must be of a for-profit small business where socially and economically disadvantaged individuals own at least 51% interest and also control the management and the daily business operations. So the ownership cannot be in name only. In the case where there are multiple owners, 51% or more of the ownership must be comprised of socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. Next slide. Control. The 51% owner or owners must possess the required license or credential, if required by law, to own and or control a certain type of firm. For example, if you have an engineering firm with 3 owners, but only one holds the required engineering license, that specific person must have management control of the daily business operations of the firm. Next slide. Independence. This refers to the fact that a firm's viability should not depend on its relationship with another firm. This means that the business cannot be dependent on another firm to provide personnel, facilities, equipment, or financial support. Next slide. Personal net worth. The 51% majority owner or owners must not exceed a personal net worth of $1.32 million. Your primary residence would not be included in the calculations for this amount, nor would the value of your business. Next slide. The business size standard. A firm's 3-year gross receipts average must not exceed 30.40 million for the DBE statutory cap. And also, a firm must not exceed the 5-year gross receipts average for the SB size standard for their specific industry codes. This number varies for different industries. For example, code 237990 for other heavy and civil engineering construction has a $45 million revenue cap, while 541620 environmental consulting services has a $16.5 million revenue cap. For some industries like manufacturers, there might not be a dollar amount. The size standard for them would instead be based on total number of employees. The way a firm will be evaluated for gross receipts is through their tax information. Next slide. Now on to applying for DBE certification. This process can seem a bit overwhelming, but I will be providing you with a somewhat of a step-by-step overview, so hopefully that helps. Next slide. Okay, so for the application process, the usual processing time is about 90 days after your application is deemed complete. If upon submission your application is found to be incomplete, the certification branch will reach out to you for the additional documentation that you need to provide. The 90-day time clock I mentioned will start once all required information is received. As part of the application process, an analyst from the certification office will schedule a virtual meeting or possibly visit your business or home office to conduct the on-site interview. The certification analyst will interview the majority owner or owners and some of the principals as needed. Once the on-site interview has been completed, your file analyst, along with the certification manager, will make a decision on your application, and you will be notified whether your application was approved or denied. Next slide. To apply for DBE certification, you can contact any one of the CUCP certifying partners that are shown on this page by clicking on their logo, and you get to this page by using the link that's provided at the top of this slide. So that's www.californiaucp.dbesystem.com. Next slide. Another way to access the electronic DBE application is via the Caltrans homepage. You're only going to see like small portions of what is on the homepage, but when you go to the homepage, it's hoped that you will see that there's a lot of other links and resources on that website. For now, we're going to just stick to the parts that will get you to the electronic application. So on step 1, you start from the Caltrans homepage located at the link there, dot.ca.gov. You can find information about the DBE program by navigating to the Office of Civil Rights webpage. To get there, first click on the programs icon at the top of the Caltrans homepage. So that's step 1. Step 2, you would scroll down to find and click on the link that's labeled Civil Rights. Step 3, you then scroll down kind of towards the bottom of the next screen and click on the link that's labeled California Unified Certification Program. For step 4, once you click that link, it'll take you to another screen, the California Unified Certification Program online portal. You will scroll down and click Find a California Certifying Agency. Next page or slide, sorry. Step 5, once you're on the online certification screen that populates, there you will see there 4 certifying agency areas to choose from. Depending on the area your firm is located, you'll select that area. And the 4 main areas are Los Angeles is its own area, Central Valley and Bay Area, then Imperial, Riverside, and San Diego area, and then the Northern California area. For the purposes of this example, and since I work for Caltrans, we're gonna click on Show Details under the section that says, is your firm located in the Northern California area? Step 6, an additional screen will populate, providing you with a list of all the counties in the specific geographic area that you selected. And it will list the agencies. It'll have a link to the agencies that cover those counties. For this example, in the Northern California area, your only agency of choice is Caltrans. So that's what we'll be clicking, California Department of Transportation. Step 7, you're going to then, on the next page, scroll down to click Apply for/Renew Certification. Step 8, once the online certification screen populates, the page will actually show you that you have the option to create an account, like you see here on this page, or look up an account. You need to have an account prior to being able to access the DBE application. However, you might already have an account on this online portal due to working relationships with other agencies that are also housed on this portal. Therefore, prior to creating a new account, we really highly suggest that you look for your firm to ensure you're not already in the system. We don't want you creating duplicate profiles for your firm. So this can be done by first clicking Look Up Account, which is a link that you will find under the Create an Account link on this screen. Next slide. So once you've created an account on this portal or find that you have this account, you can complete your certification application. Your account will allow you to check the status of your application once you apply. You can also review your business profile information as it's shown on the portal, and you will use it to complete your annual updates. Overall, this account is your portal to everything related to your certification moving forward. In order to complete setting up your account, just so you know, you will be required to have the information listed here: your firm's tax ID, your business information, contact information, and the name of a contact person. Note, to ensure your security of the DBE or ACDBE application, only you will have access to this record once it is created. Also, on another note, once you begin the application, you have 90 days to complete it and submit it. Otherwise, the record will self-delete after those 90 days. You will receive periodic reminders via your email up until the 90 days are over. Once the 90 days have passed, again, the DBE or ACDBE application will be deleted and it cannot be recovered. You would need to start again. Next slide. Some important things you want to remember are, again, complete your application within 90 days. Make sure your application and personal net worth statement are both signed and both notarized. Upload all the required documents that are listed on the portal. They're broken up into, some are listed as mandatory documents, and if they do not pertain to you, you need to upload a statement saying, I can't submit this document because it doesn't pertain to my business, because, you know, maybe I'm a sole proprietor versus a corporation. And for example, for bylaws, you would say, I can't submit the bylaws because I'm a sole proprietor. But you have to upload something in that section. Then there's another section that's listed as required documents, which actually has a not applicable button that you can click if that document does not pertain. If you don't finish the first time, you can always return to the link directly to complete your application. And excuse me. On another note, please know that all tax returns must be signed, even if you filed electronically, or you should include the e-file signature page for each tax return. If you do not, the application will be returned for that reason. And also, although we do have an electronic system now, we are still accepting paper applications for now. And you can find the paper application to download and print out on the Civil Rights DBE certification website at dot.ca.gov. The paper application has a list of required documents on the last page of the 15-page application. Next slide. Now on to the frequently asked questions. Next slide. Okay, one question we get a lot, is there a fee for applying? No, the only cost for applying is to notarize your application and your PNW or personal net worth statement. Can I mail my application? Okay, so although the slide says it has to be online, as I just said, you can still mail in your application. However, the preferred method going forward is to send it online because everything is moving to the digital platform. How long does it take to get a response after I submit my application? As I mentioned before, the process is 90 days. Once Caltrans receives all the complete necessary paperwork, but it can take up to a month from when you submit it before you receive a response or acknowledgement from Caltrans. Right now we are very, very busy and somewhat understaffed, but we review everything in the order that it's received. Okay. I believe that's it on that one. Next slide. In the next few slides, we will talk about some available resources. Next slide. So the Office of Civil Rights in Sacramento has an analyst of the day at the number that you see here, 916-324-1700, to answer in person any questions you may have. Please note the analyst might be on another call, so leave a message if it goes to voicemail. They will return all messages, but they do not have time to call back every missed call. You can also send an email to the email address listed there, dbe.certification@dot.ca.gov, or you can contact your local Caltrans District Small Business Liaison for assistance. The websites listed here, US DOT DBE program and DBE federal program, are great resources when you're getting started. Each of these websites will provide you with additional insights to the program. Next slide. Okay, this concludes my presentation. To ask a question, please remember to use the Q&A feature, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Leticia. I don't see any questions at the moment, but if any come through after, we will address it to you at the end. So I think we're good to move on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Leticia, and for sharing such beneficial information. And last but not least, I would like to introduce to you all to Caltrans District 11's Administration Resources Coordinator, Laura Hill, to explain to you all our procurement processes. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Laura Hill. I'm an Admin Resources Coordinator, and I will be providing an overview of the procurement process. Next slide. Next slide. Acquisitions of goods and some services sequence. After determining the need to procure goods, we must follow a sequence to see if the items we intend to purchase is available within state service. Before reaching out to request price quotes, we have to do the following. Number one, we have to contact Caltrans warehouses. First, our own district warehouse, and second, the Sacramento Material and Stores warehouse. Second, we have to contact, or we look for surplus property, which is usually for furniture, and we contact the Department of General Services surplus property and Caltrans surplus property. Third, we check with California prison industry authorities. After that, we'd have to look into any leverage procurement agreements. And fifth, we could utilize the small business DVBE solicitation package option, and we would go through DGS certified small business, micro business, and DVBE suppliers for that one. And sixth, we can utilize the less than 10,000 or up to 50,000 solicitation package by utilizing competitive suppliers. Next slide. Contract methods utilized by Caltrans. First, Caltrans utilizes different methods for entering into a service agreement for something other than architectural and engineering services. One method that we use is invitation for bid, the most common method. Another, request for a proposal to solicit consultant expertise. Another one is a request for qualifications for purchases between 10,000 and 50,000. We also have non-competitive bids. When no known competition exists, the department can fully justify the need. Another one, invitation for price quote. This is a streamlined process where we can contract with DGS certified small business, micro businesses, and DVBEs. AB 1574 aims to expand the pool of certified small business and DVBE participating in state contracts. And we also have service agreements under $10,000 or U10s. A U10 is utilized when the dollar amount of the service is estimated to be less than the advertising threshold of $10,000. In response to AB 1574 issued in March 2023, all IFPQs and RFQs for services will be posted to the state of California's e-procurement system, the Cal e-Procure, to expand the pool of California certified small business and DVBE firms participating in state contracts. Next slide. Solicitation packages and non-IT procurement methods. Less than 10,000 solicitation package, two quotes would be requested. And then small business DVBE option solicitation package, Dollar limits are $5,000 to $250,000 for goods and services, or $388,000 for non-IT public works. A minimum of 2 quotes must be received from 2 DGS certified small business or 2 DGS certified DVBEs. Next slide. Another non-IT procurement method is CalCard, and this one is a very popular payment mechanism that we do use. The CalCard program is an alternative payment mechanism the department utilizes to acquire goods and services from suppliers. The single purchase limit for the CalCard is $9,999.99 per transaction. The the CalCard Service Agreement, CCSA, less than $10,000. The CCSA is not valid if the agreement is not valid if the agreed amount exceeds $9,999, including all applicable taxes, and the term is no more than 2 years in duration. Next slide. Non-IT procurement methods. These are the documents and language that we require to have on file for our Caltrans or CalCard transactions. Most of these documents are also required on all purchases, not just CalCards. The payee data record and CalCard certification, if the business is not already in our internal databases. California seller's permit, proof of small business or DVBE certification, tax delinquency status, recycled content certification, commercially useful function, executive order N-6-22 language, substantiation that the business we are procuring from has not been determined to be a target of economic sanctions, Darfur Contracting Act, 2 or more price quotes from DGS certified small business or DVBEs, and then the itemized invoice or sales receipt. Next slide, please. Information technology procurement. IT purchases refer to any hardware, software, or services that interface or are connected to the Caltrans network. The Information Technology Procurement and Contracts Department is responsible for processing IT purchases of goods and services. We would need to make a IT purchase, and we submit a justification to the IT department. Then the IT department reviews the state contracts index listing to see if we're required to make these purchases through a mandatory LPA. If the items are not sold through a mandated LPA, it can be purchased from a small business DVBE, our preferred method. After receiving IT approvals, we may then proceed to purchase using the procurement method already discussed, including CalCard. Next slide. Payee data and CalCard certifications. We as purchasers work with the Division of Procurement and Contracts and to add the vendors to the fiscal vendor database. In order to do so, to purchase from a selected vendor, the vendor must be listed in the vendor table in the district's financial system, AMS Advantage. If not, the vendor must complete the payee data record form standard STD 204 and the CalCard certification form ADM 3026. And here are an example of what these 2 forms look like. Next slide. SB and DVBE certifications, the California seller's permit, tax delinquency status, and target of economic sanctions. SB and/or DVBE certifications must be verified using the DGS procurement system Cali Procure. The vendor must provide the California seller's permit number, which will be used to verify the vendor's CA seller's permit using the Board of Equalization website. The purchaser must verify that the vendors are not in the sanctions list in the Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control by accessing this link that is on this slide here. And that is sanctions.ofac.treas.gov. A couple other ones here are the purchasers also checks the following websites to verify the vendor's tax delinquency status. As purchasers, we need to ensure that the individual or entity we are conducting business with has not been determined to be a target of economic sanctions while such sanctions are in effect. We run the business name through the Office of Foreign Assets Control search portal. Like I said, we are required to have substantiation that our vendors are not subject to economic sanctions by looking them up. And we search the portal and take a screenshot of any negative results for our procurement documentation. Next slide. Cal Recycle goals. State agencies must procure recycled products instead of non-recycled products whenever recycled products are available if fitness and quality are equal with no more than 10% greater cost over non-recycled products. We are mandated to purchase goods and materials from 16 product categories as listed in the Cal Recycle web portal. And here's a link to the where you can find those listed. The vendor must complete and submit the post-consumer content certification form Cal Recycle 74 to the district certifying the percentage of PCRC products or items. And here's an example what the page looks like. At least 75% of the total of reportable purchases shall contain post-consumer recycled content materials, and we are required to report such purchases to Cal Recycle yearly. Next slide. Commercially useful function. This requirement intends to ensure the business we are procuring from is a legitimate small business or DVBE, as opposed to some other entity trying to pass for a small business or DVBE. The awarded contractor must perform a CUF, which means it must perform the work as stipulated in the bid and provide the goods and/or services listed in the initial bid response. And that actually, if you go to the next slide, this concludes the procurement process overview. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Any additional questions for Laura? I don't think so. Thank you so much, Laura, for your presentation.
Thank you, Michaela.
And yes, we'll be sending all presentation materials, the recording, and our procurement fair flyer after this event within the next few days. I think we're ready to move on to the last section.
Okay, yes, thank you, Laura, for sharing all this great information. Now I'd like to bring Michaela Howard back out to speak briefly about Caltrans Small Business and to close out our event.
Thank you, everybody that stayed on until the end. Apologies for running a little late, but I hope you got as much information as you could from today. I won't go over the small business goals again. I know Wayne touched on that, and so did our OCR team. So I'm just going to focus on what do we do here in District 11. District 11 services San Diego and Imperial counties. If you are in different parts of the state, we also have liaisons up and down the state. So if you reach out to us, we can forward you their information as well. So on the screen here, there's the Office of Civil Rights event calendar, as well as their website. So we are actually under them. And on their events calendar, there's upcoming workshops that your company might be interested in, including ones from Apex or SBDC, or ones that are local specific. So I know people in here are from LA or Long Beach. So sometimes there's events up there, sometimes there's some down here. It's totally up to you, whichever one you want to attend. And so our small business team does a lot of outreach. We run this event. We also run the procurement fair. So if you have any questions about this event or the upcoming procurement fair, we are the people to talk to. So our email is up on the screen there, d11.smallbusiness@dot.ca.gov. Another resource we have is our Small Business Council. So we host a bi-monthly local small business council that is attended by a few other local agencies. That is here at our district office in Old Town San Diego. During this council, small businesses discuss issues that are happening within the community, things they bring up, ideas that Caltrans can do to improve our contracting and how we can work together better. So if you're interested in that, also reach out to us. And they will also actually be at our procurement fair. So if you want to talk to them about joining the council, or if you just wanted to join as just to watch or observe, you can totally do that as well. And lastly, one of our biggest things that we offer here are free one-on-one meetings. So if you have specific questions about your business, or how to get started with Caltrans, we can meet with you one-on-one, either in person or virtual, and directly address whatever you need assistance with. Next slide, please. And I just want to thank all of our presenters one more time, Mike, Cheryl, Wayne, Letitia, and Laura. We really appreciate you taking the time to present all this beneficial information and prepare everybody for our upcoming procurement fair. And to the audience, but when you leave the meeting this morning, you will be prompted to take a 2-minute survey. So we would greatly appreciate if you can just complete that really quick, and that'll help us with any future prepare for the fair events. And on the screen here, we have it one more time. This is our procurement fair flyer. I heard in the chat that the QR code doesn't work, so I will send the link one more time in the chat before we leave today. And we highly recommend that you register before. So this is a very good chance to just do it really quickly right now. It takes a few seconds. And again, if you need any directions, information, we're going to be there on site. So we will be your hub. If you're looking to specifically talk to one agency or one prime, we'll direct you to wherever you need to go. In addition, we can, our Small Business Council is going to be there. We're going to have our innovation committee. So if you have any, if you're a small business that has an innovative product or anything like that, they do an innovation fair each year, so you can talk to them. We'll have our Adopt a Highway. Lots of resources and information at this procurement fair. And we hope to see you there.
Thank you,
And so
Michaela. Thank you, Liliana. Thank you, everyone. Go
Thank
ahead,
you,
Michaela.
everybody.